Yes, welcome back to Youth Alive, guys. Yes, SimplyMhoses right here. And right now I'll be joined on the show with my amazing guest. By the way, she has an amazing, close to a decade, or even more than a decade, no, let's say about a decade, of experience in entertainment law and law generally. And she has had years experiences ranging from legal drafting, legal research, corporate governance, due diligence, entertainment law, IP and copyright, dispute resolution practice, corporate litigation. So she's rich in experience, by the way. And of course, none other than the amazing, the delectable, the beautiful, Foza. How are you? Foza, chop no. I'm all right. All right. By the way, guys, Foza is amazing. You see the work she do, the work she put out. The people you have a relationship with in this industry, the strongholds of this industry.
My guy just came to wine me.
No. By the way, speaking of skills, Lade, the list is endless.
Wow, you've gone to...
Of course now. You know the vibes. By the way, how did you start up? How did you know that this was the call for you? This is like the purpose for you?
So, I mean, like, I've documented this story, right? So, but I think it was first of all, I started doing law because I was angry, right? I wanted to deal with people, right?
Wow.
When I was growing up, they say, oh, you talk too much, be a lawyer, all right? So, and I come from a family of lawyers. So for me, law was almost like automatic, right? But I wasn't exactly sure. You know, I knew like, oh, I was brilliant. I come from a family of lawyers, so if you graduate with a good grade, you automatically get jobs and everything. But I knew I also really liked anything that had to do with like creative, you know. So I like to dance, I like to hype, I like to, you know, write, you know, I like literature, you know. I tried to rap at one point in my life.
But you wrapped it up.
I rapped. First of all, the problem was that it took me 3 weeks to write one verse. That's when I knew that this is not my calling. So, but I always had like people around me that, you know, I knew the latest songs. I could mix music. You know, I would tell you, oh, do it like this, do it like that, you know. So I just knew that music was the call for me and creativity was the call for me. In school, I was in the choir. Classmate, I can sing. When I was in secondary school, I used to sing baritone.
Are you serious? Okay, I think, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, but for me, it was just really like, look, how do I combine the law? And then I think in theory level, I found out about this course. And it was intellectual property, and I thought, wow, so I can mix the law and help creative people. So that's how it started for me in 300 level. I can't remember. I think maybe that's 2010.
What school did you attend, by the way?
Oh, Great Babcock.
Okay, okay.
I went to Babcock, and my lecturer was Professor Bankole Shudipo, one of the best, you know, intellectual property lawyers in Africa.
Wow.
So, and he was one that gingered me. I was like, yo, you can do this and everything. So I went in my research and found out about entertainment law, met my mentor, Miss Uduak. That's how it started for me.
So you mentioned something about documenting this so far, like your journey so far into entertainment law, being a lawyer, stories about you basically. And that brings me back to So Far So Foza, your memoir, which you dropped on your 30th birthday. By the way, this lady you're seeing here is 3 decades old.
I know.
And this.
Look at my babies.
Like it's quite unbelievable. They drink blood. They drink blood.
I drank. I'm still drinking.
Vampire.
I want to be like Ali Berry by the time I'm like 50.
Actually, it's giving the vibe.
So I come out like my, you know, my birthday suit, and they're like,
What is?
Sugar mommy for life.
Actually.
That's what I'm going for.
You are achieving it already. Like,
if you saw me outside, how old would you think I was?
I don't call your number already. Like, babe, can we can we hang out sometimes? You know, only in that you're like my elder sister. Like,
focus.
Okay, I'm focused on it. But for real, honestly,
I know people still ask me like, if when I wear shorts and it's like, SS2, SS3, I'm
like, you guys look down on me this much.
And
But it's a gift as well.
It's a gift. It's a gift. It's also a camouflage. Because one of the things that I've faced is, when you now walk into rooms and saying you want to negotiate $1 million deal, they look, you say,
like I will shock with lack
they talk. So I think and I wrote in my book, right, how for many people I faced a lot of ageism problem as opposed to sexism. Now I'm beginning to face sexism, which is very funny because you feel like in your years of growing up, that's when you face, you're a woman. Me, it was, you're too young. I literally had a client that, we did I did that like a 100K deal, and my
dollars or naira now?
I don't talk in naira.
Okay. So, that's what G.
So like we did a 100K deal, and my cut was 10%, which is like 10K. And when it was time to pay, my guy started saying things like, what do you even use money for?
I want
to look the guy say, and that's also the funny thing about the industry. Service providers, like, my job is I give you advice. And because the advice I give you would ensure you don't get into trouble. Many times, Africans don't see the value of it. They're like, what are you even doing, sir? I'm just paying you every month. So I'm just giving you
we have a caller that wants to talk to you. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
My name is Hadiza. I'm calling from Abuja.
You're calling from Abuja?
Yes.
All right, yeah, so we have Foza Amy, an entertainment lawyer, and of course, an entertainment executive on the show with us today.
Yes. Hello.
Hi, how you doing? Good evening.
Hello, ma.
She can hear you. Good evening.
Good evening. So I'm currently in law school.
Okay.
But then I want to be an entertainment lawyer.
All
but
right.
my parents don't see the point of doing entertainment law. Can you enlighten me on the benefits of being an entertainment lawyer?
So I think, when you have issues with like your parents, trying to convince your parents, first of all, you need to understand it's coming from a place of love. They're just scared that after paying all the school fees, you come back home and be begging them for money. So what I usually tell people is that do a business case. Like, make it like, I tell them, look, if you spend, for instance, in my case, my school fees was about almost 5 million.
Oh.
I went to Babcock, right? So I made a presentation and I said, look, you spend 5 million in 5 years. Let's say your ROI, return on investment, is 10% per year. So that means 10% times that's 50% of it. So that means you make back 7.5. Give me 5 years. This is how I'm going to make back the 7.5. And I mean, most of them will be more comfortable, right? So it's like, see, the future of Africa has about 1 billion people, and 70% of that population are under 40. Which means that there's a creative explosion.
True.
Right? Now, the beauty about being a lawyer is that you can work in any industry. So the thing is, how are you positioning yourself to service the target market of that 70% of 1 billion? So when you put it in that perspective, and you say, okay, if for example, you're in Nigeria now, and I'm not going to lie to you and say law is the most profitable profession. I'm not going to lie.
That's realistic,
yeah. You come out and you probably do 100K for like a year or two, right, as salary, and that's probably you getting the best of, if you get to the best of people. Now, I also say that when you specialize, the first 5 years of your career is the defining moment. And if you are one of those people, I am an advocate for you specialize in something because I believe consistency breeds success. When I keep doing the same thing, I become smarter at it, I become faster at it, and people trust me more. And that's kind of how I built myself. I gave myself a 7-year plan. I said the first 5 years, I'll learn everything that needs to be learned. By the 6th year, I should be referred to as one of the top 5. By the 7th year, I should be referred to as one of the best, right? So by the time you put down that strategy one by one, and you take active steps.
There's a template already.
And you do a template. Trust me, your parents are more. By the time you make, you're a lawyer, right? So you make that argument to them and convince them. I promise you do not, but just tell them that there's potential. The industry, the entertainment industry, which comprises of fashion, music, film, sports, technically almost $100 billion industry. So if you, a lawyer, you're supposed to be doing, say, 5% of that every year.
I'm doing my hey, oh. But then thank you for calling from Abuja, and of course, yeah, I believe that you got one or two things of which I'm sure that you should have gotten one or two things, even more than one or two things from what Foza said so far, so forth.
All right, this guy, you're flowing with me so far, so forth. Also, you can just get my book and you just see how I did it.
But by the way, now, let's keep the memoir now. Real quick, follow up on our question now. What are the other aspects of law that you feel like we as Africans or as Nigerians are sleeping on?
So I feel like we're sleeping a lot on fashion law. We're sleeping a lot on sports law. Like I said, creativity is going to be, there's an explosion of creativity in Africa because the youth, the population is young. You know, unlike, for example, like a continent like Asia where they're almost like a dying generation, right? But you've seen in the last 10 years, because they've seen that there's been a ramp up in, you know, what we were very blessed with resources. We're very blessed with human capital, right? So it's, you need to look at the industries that come out from these industries. If you look at it, right, the jobs that were popular when we were growing up, you know, that it was lawyer, doctor, architect, engineer.
Pilot.
Now, it's content creator.
Gen Z.
Yeah, because it's like people are consuming, you know, heavy content. So the question now is, what are those industries that you see? You need to think 10 years ahead. You need to think sports is going to be so huge. The moment now we're having a lot of private investors coming into African sports. So that's one area that, you know, I feel like. And also aviation law, right? Because Africa is about to enter into in the next 5-10 years, we're going to enter into an excessive intra-African trade situation. Because I personally believe that Africa is the golden savior of the world in the end time. We rarely have earthquakes or tsunamis or whatever. Everybody is going to come back.
Yeah, you get.
So that's what I believe. Like, and to my young lawyers out there, when I was in law school, I had a lecturer that laughed at me when I said I wanted to do entertainment law. And this was 1,500 people in class because, you know, we had this big hall and everybody was laughing when I said, oh, I wanted to do it. And his exact statement was, so you want to be Kim Kardashian? I promise you. And I was just like, and everybody was laughing. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to be more successful than any of you here. Because, like, you guys are not seeing into the future. And so, those of you out there that you found this law that you feel like is a specialist area, see, every rich lawyer that you see today is specialized in something. Don't fall for that lie, that old lie of do everything and be a master.
Jack of all trades, master. No, he's better than the master. So a little bit delving into your memoir now. Memoirs are personal. They're very personal. There are sometimes the stories that you really wish like you wouldn't share. Sometimes, what was the courage for you to share certain stories, address certain topical issues that happened while you were growing up, and of course?
For me, I feel like, you know, we don't have enough people that tell stories. And I feel that's one of our biggest problems in Nigeria, is that we don't, I know that I'm going to be extremely great and successful and a good
You are great.
You know, so I've always known that. And I've always tried to look for people that I could connect personally to their stories. Because I've had issues where my back was backed against the wall. Like, I've been running businesses for almost like 8 years, right? The only thing I've heard is, you can't be emotional. You have to do this, you have to do that. Nobody spoke to me about, oh, your mental health is very important, right? Nobody spoke to me and said, working as an entrepreneur in Nigeria is hell. Like, I'll get to the office, you know, I've budgeted that this year, you know, with our small money, we'll say we'll do 50K on lights. Then in the next month, you're doing 150K on lights.
No structure.
You can't say that, you can't put that in your business plan, right? And you cannot tell your board members or your investors, say, almost statistics don't change you, right? So you have stories, like I've read like memoirs from like, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, Robert Iger, Disney, how they built this company. But their stories are not peculiar to Africa. So I'm looking for like
something that is
African
relatable.
story, and they're telling me it's God.
Like,
you don't want me, like, tell me the truth. Tell me how you, like, I want to relate to a Nigerian. So for me, it was just like, it was very important for me. I told myself, I said, every 10 years, I was going to talk about, like, the struggle. It's not all going to be glitz and glam. Like, in the book, I spoke about how I come from a very well-known family. Actually. Once I say my name, everybody just feels like, oh, I have money. But nobody knows that, the effect of, your dad dying without a will. And you coming from a polygamous family, right? And
there's been lots of sharing already.
And how that can send you from grace to grass, right? But how do you pick yourself back up? And many of us are in that situation. How do you, deal with situations where, of peer pressure, things like, body insecurities, mental health struggle. How do you deal with betrayal? Disloyalty. Those are all the things I spoke about in the book, right? So, like, how do you start a business with 25,000 naira? Legit. So those are the things that, like, I said, you know what? I have to say this story because at a point I was beginning to forget. When I go to one nice club, I go pop bus beats, I go feel like, big girl. I forget that, I'm coming from the trenches, and I have to, like, be very mindful and, be very, like, I need to realize that I need to pay it forward. So for me also, it was also like a therapy session for me. I wrote the book for like a year. I had to call my mom, call my brother to confirm story because I forgot, because my trauma was, as it happens, just be going. Don't deal with, like, for example, my dad is late almost 12 years. And last year was when I properly started grieving. Because I'm the firstborn, immediately died. My mom was just like, look, we're going into straight zombie mode. And I've been in that mode till like last year when I sat down, I'm like, that was the first time I actually sat down. I'm like, wow, this guy is dead. Many of us are going through it like that. And I feel like there are people that are going through the same thing. They're not as fortunate to be as mentally strong as I have been. Because there are times where, bro, I would just say in the middle of the night, make I just enter car, just drive. And some people they just need someone to tell them that, look, you're not alone. So if the book can do that, I'm fulfilled.
Writing your memoir, they did like give you new insights or new perspectives to how you have previously seen your life experiences.
Oh yes, definitely. Age has taught me how to define. I'm one of those people that I strongly believe that things are black and white. And I feel like we human beings, we complicate things. It's either you're a liar or you're an honest person. It's either but age has now taught me that even though that's what you principally believe in, you still need to be diplomatic in dealing with people. Age has also taught me that just because you're loyal to someone doesn't mean that they're going to be loyal to you. And because you're a team player doesn't mean the other person is a team player. Age has also taught me that no matter how much you try to be a good person, someone will still see you as a bad person, right? Age has also taught me, like, it's very okay to rest. I don't know who came up with the theory of...
Walk. Motivational speakers. Motivational speakers. If you sleep for 6 hours, you're dulling.
I don't know who came up with that theory, but it has been a disservice. It's very okay to rest. It's very okay to take breaks. It's very okay to feel burnt out, and take a break. It's very okay to say, you know what, I'm taking a break. I'm coming back to this 3 months' time. It's very okay. You shouldn't be made to feel any less. Also, as a woman, they tell you, oh, you're too emotional. But I tell people, I said, the emotion is what makes us extremely good at what we do, because you pour everything into it. So why do you want to take the good part and you don't want to take the bad part? So they make you feel like a bad person, then it now turns into something where you're now putting up this wall and defense mechanism, and then you now start acting outside of yourself. So for me, the memo is just like, all right, so Foza, we're entering into this new season. You're going to rest.
So rest.
You're going to rest. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of industry friends reached out and they were big on me asking this question. Personally, I wouldn't have asked it again. But what are the mistakes artists or talents, okay, let me go back to, let me be very specific, artists make when getting into a contract with labels?
So I think the biggest mistake is ignorance. You have access to so much information, right, that you are doing yourself a disservice not to read. Because when you read, you realize that investments are being blocked off right now. People are beginning to rationalize and see, is it really worth it to invest in this industry, right? So if you get the opportunity to work with someone, right, bar the attitude problem, you probably have attitude, but there's a contract in place, right? I always tell artists, I'm like, it's better for you to complete that contract, you know, and resolve it as legally as possible, even if like things go wrong. Resolve it as legally, the best legal way as possible, than to be doing your social media rants and
changing names.
You know, because it's like, we're all still figuring this thing out.
True that.
Right? And when people decide to, I'm a big believer of when you invest, you should see return. If you don't see return, let's see how we cancel out the bad debt. But in most times, you see like, you know, a lot of artists come into a relationship with the label thinking, down to my boxers, you must buy it. That's not my, like, it's like, now the deals are shifting. The deals are just shifting to, okay, since in the past, they've actually invested in your boxers and they still come back and you are making them the villains. All right, we're just going to invest in the music and keep it moving. I don't want to care about your mental health. I don't want to care about whether you're good or not. I don't want to care whether you are developing as an artist. I just want the album and I'm going. It's going to be good for the structure of the industry, but we're going to see a lot of human deterioration. So for me, I always just say, like, if you're entering a deal, be knowledgeable, read. There's so many, when I was coming up, you can argue that there was no resource, but now there's so many, like, I promise you, if you take 2,000 naira, the money that you used to do your other vices, if you take that 2K, buy data, and sit down, and go through the internet, you find so many information, like, too much information. There's an information overload right now, you know, and you find that and you are able to make more informed decisions. And labels, like I always say, labels are that bank you go to borrow money that you have to pay back. So the common misconception about artists thinking that the house they gave you, the car they gave you is free. You paid that money back.
You pay back.
Why would I give you a car for free? Are you my son?
Pay back. And by the time they're now charging you guys, they're collecting, you said they know.
Are you my pastor?
Shoes, you're paying me 200K. Yeah.
You pay back.
Now, there's so much misconceptions about, many people are even wondering, what is IP? What is, by the way, what is intellectual property? Let me, and explain the concept of intellectual property.
So intellectual property is basically anything that comes out from your mind. So think about a land, but think about a land that comes from your brain. So anything that is a product of intellect, right, it now becomes property. So you don't have to, one of my vision for Africa is we get to a point where what you create with your brain can stand as collateral in bank for you to loan money, right? Which is kind of like the pseudo system that happens with label. Give me what you sing, I give you money in advance. That's it. And you pay back. That's it. It's a quid pro quo, right? So intellectual property, you know, you have copyright, you have trademark, you have geographical indication, you have plant protection, like you have like designs and patents. So these different laws protect the creation of your mind. So for example, if you come and you create a camera that is flying, you know, you get a patent for that, meaning that for the next 7 years, only you can produce that so that you can get economic value from it. There are different scenarios, like for example, that during COVID, right? You cannot, in that situation, you cannot say, oh, I found a cure for COVID, I'm going to keep it alone, right? The laws will force you to share with everybody, right? That's what intellectual property law does for you. For music, it's when you create music, it gives you and say, okay, nobody can touch that music except you give them the right to. Same for film, same for your photographs, same for your videos, right? Same for design when you're doing like fashion and whatnot. So that's what basically IP.
Now, many producers do not know that the beats that they create, if I'm wrong, let me know, that it is their intellectual property. And they can still remake that beat. Okay, wait. What are the laws? Let me just leave it to you. It's your work. What are the laws binding a producer, a music producer, and their beats?
So it's interesting because, you know, for the better part of my career, I spent, like, fighting for producers, right? And because the laws is simple. It's the same thing as artists, right? You create this piece of work, you give to someone. Either you completely sell it to somebody or you rent it out to somebody. So that forever rent is where you, like, the same way you rent out.
I get your royalties.
You get your royalties. So rent money is what we call royalties. So now, for example, now if I'm doing a contract for an artist, I'll say, okay, fine, you're going to give me this beat exclusively, and I'll pay you X for life, right? I can also put in my contract, say, okay, for the next 5 years, you can't give anybody the semblance of this beat. So for example, say the biggest song, right? Let's say that the guy that produces for Ashake, he now remakes all these beats for somebody
Actually, no,
else.
it's not.
You know, he now remakes all the beats for someone else. And Ashake has gone ahead to spend millions of dollars to make sure that that song is #1. You're doing a disservice to him, right? But in that situation, Ashake's team, Magic Stick's team comes together and say, okay, this contract that we're putting together will say that, okay, you can't do this certain period. This is how much I'm going to pay you. That's how much I'm going to pay you. You know, and everybody's happy and everybody keeps it going. So as a producer, once you create a property, it's your publishing. It's very important that you keep, you know, your production fee too is important, but your production fee fluctuates according to your brand equity. So if you're a guy from Alimosho, you can do a beat of 10K today. If that song becomes #1 in the country, you can be charging 1 million by tomorrow. So don't be, and I've seen that mistake, right?
Happen over time.
Happen over time that you feel like, oh, but SARS is charging X amount, or Gospel on the Beat is charging X amount. Those guys have been there for 10 years. Banga boy, you see like, you know, so it's important that you understand the dynamics of your brand.
Oh, I really wish we can still go on with the gist and of course the chat. Funny how most of the questions just popped from left, right, center, and yes, but of course, you know how they say that time flies well, and of course you're having so much fun. But of course, Foza, we're still looking to having you come back. Cut eye. And of course, guys, of course, if you're looking to connect with Foza across social media, and of course, ask her questions up and close. She's open to her DMs. She's open to responding to her mails. And of course, reach out to her.
Don't toast me in my DM. Just go straight to the point.
Are you taking, by the way?
Very much taking.
For granted, or yes, of course, you can reach out to Foza at Fozadoza, yeah?
Yeah, Fozadoza everywhere.
Yes, Fozadoza everywhere. And of course, just let her know your questions as a lawyer, the things you have going on in your mind, and of course, the questions that you have at the back of your mind. And of course, do good by joining us on all social media platforms at Rave TV channel. My name is SimplyMhoses, the common sugar daddy of Africa, Mr. Romantic, you know the flowers, yes. And this is what we draw the curtain on Youth Alive. Thank you for joining us. Foza, thank you for coming. Thank you for honoring our invite. We'll see after the service.